Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the time when we are in the womb and how we are influenced by the life of our parents. Thank you for joining us. As a clinical psychologist, Mark Frechet observed that life does not begin as a blank page. It unfolds according to an initial intention, often unspoken, formed in the minds and emotional realities of the parents. What we call project is not psychological in the ordinary sense. It is biological. It is symbolic. And it is going to shape the child's perception of the world, their role, their loyalties, and even the symptoms or illnesses that they might trigger in their lives. And so through his work on the parental project, Frechet revealed how the unconscious remains faithful to its original mission, repeating it across time until it is made conscious. What we call the parental project becomes the first organizing principle of existence. It is the invisible script that life follows long before we believe we are choosing our path. The intention, hope, or unresolved conflicts of the parents may be repeated or resolved by a child. This is not mystical, it is a biological adaptation. So there is a simple experiment that illustrates the depth of biological inheritance. For instance, a worm is placed inside a small enclosure or a box, and each time a beam of light enters the box, the worm is being pricked with a fine needle. And light, which was once neutral, becomes associated with threat. And after repeated pairing of being poked and the light, the worm no longer waits for the needle. At the first hint of light, it curls up and retreats. And the nervous system has learned a new association: light equals danger. So what makes this observation striking is not only the learning itself, but what follows. The offspring of this worm, which is raised without the needles, without harm, without any direct conditioning, nevertheless will display the same avoidance. When light appears, they withdraw. They behave as though remembering an event that they never personally experienced. Something has been transmitted beyond behavior. The parent's adaptation has become the child's predisposition. Biologically, this makes sense because evolution always favors efficiency. If a specific stimulus endangered the parent, it is adaptive for the offspring to avoid it. If a behavior preserved survival, it is then advantageous for it to be repeated. So nature does not wait for each generation to relearn every danger from scratch. It builds upon prior adaptation. In scientific terms, such phenomena are explored through epigenetics and transgenerational inheritance. Stress can modify gene expression through chemical markers that do not alter DNA sequences, but influence how genes are activated or silenced. This modification can, in certain cases, be passed to subsequent generations, shaping stress sensitivity, fear responses, and also behavioral tendencies. The offspring are not carrying the memory as a narrative. They are carrying a calibrated response based on a memory imprinted in the subconscious brain. So in this experiment, the light becomes more than illumination. It becomes a symbol of encoded meaning. The worm does not philosophize about threat. It reorganizes around it. and its descendants inherit not the story but the response. In this way, the parent's conflict becomes the child's biological program. This principle extends beyond worms. Across species, including humans, experiences of stress, trauma, deprivation, or resilience can leave biological traces that shape the next generation's thresholds of sensitivity. The transmission is silent. It's carried in subconscious programs and epigenetic marks. What endangered the parent may be avoided unconsciously by the child. What protected the parent may be repeated without conscious awareness. So when a parent carries an unresolved psychological conflict, it may be biologically transferred to the child and expressed as physical symptom. From an evolutionary perspective, this is not pathological. It is a strategy. If the mother were to succumb to the stress engendered by her conflict, the child's survival would be immediately endangered. So by shifting the expression of the conflict to the child, the mother may stay alive, thus preserving the family's continuity. Nature is not sentimental, it is pragmatic. It conserves information that enhances survival. And through this silent continuity, adaptation becomes inheritance and memory becomes biology. So during the intimate field of early development, the child receives far more than just nourishment. They absorb parental projections, life goals, unfulfilled dreams, remorseful decisions, suspended desires, and what remains unresolved in one generation can become activated as movement in the next. Consider a mother who longs for a divorce, yet feels unable to leave because of financial constraints or fear of instability. She carries the weight of an unchosen path throughout her pregnancy, perhaps never fully articulating it. She wishes to separate from her husband, but will not act on that desire, and she remains in stress mode. Her unborn daughter grows within that emotional conflict, and years later, the daughter may become a very independent being. She may choose a partner and later leaves that partner, achieving a separation her mother could not enact. It is not destiny unfolding mechanically, it is the expression of a subconscious program of separation in which the next generation attempts to eliminate parental stress. Similarly, a father facing bankruptcy while his wife is pregnant transmits stress related to financial loss to the child. The unborn child internalizes the emotional impact of the financial collapse. This may manifest in the adult as a strong urge to accumulate wealth, excessive caution with risk, or paradoxically repeated financial scarcity, acting as symbolically protective mechanism against losing all possessions, since without money, there is nothing to lose. So the core issue is not money itself, but the fear of losing it, which once created immense stress for the family. When a parent suppresses their dream, perhaps setting aside artistic passion or personal ambition for practicality such as raising a child, that renunciation leaves an imprint. The child may grow up with an almost inexplicable urgency to create, travel, perform, and build what the parent once imagined. What was silence in one life can resurface as destiny in another. In these dynamics, the child is not burdened consciously. There is no explicit instruction. The transmission occurs beneath awareness through subconscious alignment with unresolved stories. What could not be expressed, completed, or integrated in one generation may reappear as an opportunity in the next. This inheritance is not a prison, Awareness transforms repetition into choice. When the underlying pattern is recognized, the individual is no longer compelled to unconsciously resolve the past. They may still choose independence, financial success, or creative expression, but from a sense of freedom rather than loyalty. What one carries forward is no longer an obligation. It becomes an evolution. Healing, therefore, often requires not only individual awareness, but recognition of the larger project to which the individual has been unconsciously loyal. Thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Isabelle Benarous. If you want more information about this knowledge, you can go to our website, biologicaldecoding.com. I look forward to seeing you again for our next episode.